This is Captain Ginyu of the Ginyu Force with a special message.
You!
Shine!
Subscribe
to
Geek 101.
There are some very, very important things right now going on in the world of Japanese animation that we call anime, most of us do, involving Toei Animation. And this is going to affect Toei's big IPs. I'm talking about Digimon, I'm talking about Precure, I'm talking about One Piece, and yes, this includes Dragon Ball. So I want to go over this recent article that came out officially from Toei Animation, translated from Vinixis. Shout out to Vinixis. He has been translating stuff really, really effectively and dropping news for the past several months, almost a year. I feel like this guy came upon my radar. And there is some big news about Toei Animation's expansion, which will obviously affect the world of Dragon Ball and the future of Dragon Ball as Toei continues to work with Akio Iyoku's Capsule Corp Tokyo and Bandai and, Fuji TV and whoever else might be involved. So I'm going to go through and kind of summarize what's going on for you guys, but as always, make sure you watch the video all the way to the end. I'm going to try and be as clear as possible here. I'm going to try to make this information easy for you to understand. So make sure you leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe. This is the place to go for accurate Dragon Ball news, as well as historical information and fun videos and streams, of which I may do one about this very topic. Also, don't forget, if you're coming back here for the first time in a while, I have done videos and streams in the past couple of weeks about this upcoming Dragon Ball event in January and this big sort of teaser about these two new projects. And this right here ties in with that. Okay, so Vinixis writes, Toei Animation has announced the first phase of a 10-year plan aimed at turning the studio into a world-class powerhouse, not only by exporting anime from Japan, but also by creating content directly in overseas markets. That's kind of a big deal. The fact that Toei Animation wants to make basically animation projects outside of just Japan for North America, South America, Europe, and different places, that's something you would never expect from Toei, who's been in Japan as their lead anime and animation company going all the way back to 1956. I mean, literally. So the plan includes continuing to expand the studio's flagship IPs globally. That would, of course, be One Piece, Dragon Ball, Digimon. Maybe even if they do another Dragon Quest anime, that might also be included. Hundreds of hires in key roles within the main studio, Oizumi Studio. So they're doing mass hires, and that's good to know because they're going to put a lot of money into this expansion. And hiring more people, especially younger people, is good. If you've been following my channel for any length of time, especially if you're an OG, you know I've talked about how Toei is run primarily by a bunch of old codgers, dinosaurs from a previous era, which is why they don't really understand how big Dragon Ball, One Piece, and even Sailor Moon are outside of Japan, right? So it's kind of wild. Establishing 2 to 3 new studios in Asia to support Japanese production within 5 years. Obviously, they have a studio in the Philippines, Toei Phils. They obviously have, I think they have one in Korea. And they're probably going to open up some more, probably in Japan and other cities of Japan. So that's already big because having more studios means having more time to make better quality anime. And if you watch the video I put out a few days ago about what's happening with One Piece now going seasonal is the best for One Piece and for the future of Dragon Ball. This is the Dragon Ball channel, but this news affects way more than Dragon Ball. So share this out with anybody who is a fan of One Piece, Digimon, and many of you I'm sure are as well. It says here, new visual expressions and experiences that go beyond animation. It's a little bit, vague about going beyond animation, but I'm guessing it has to do with the next two bullet points: creating further visual expressions, not only cell look CG, and then expanding assets and environments, developing next generation technologies, VR, AR, XR games, motion capture, AI, etc., and various adjacent technologies. Toei has talked about using AI for in between animation and things like that. There's been a lot of talk about the industry switching over to AI. Now, AI is a very controversial topic because big companies are hopping on board to using AI now, both not just in America but across the pond in Europe and in Asia, in Japan. And Nvidia, the $5 trillion Nvidia company that's the leader in AI, they just hit 5 trillion, and they're a Korean based company, I believe. So I know that AI and the arts, like art and animation, is super controversial. A lot of people do not like AI, especially artists. I'm not exactly sure how Toei will use AI. Hopefully not for storytelling, because that's the last thing that we need. But I hope it doesn't mean that some of the great animators will be jobless someday and that computers will be making everything. But that story is still developing. These companies are going to do it. It says here, investing about 70 billion yen over 5 years in the development of productions. Now, 70 billion yen comes out to about $450 million. So they're putting 9 figures into this expansion. And then it says put artists at the center. Now that's good to know. And then there's the big paragraph here. I'm going to just summarize this, but essentially they're going to be doing things where they're going to cultivate new types of talent to work on new types of projects, and it seems like better communication with them. And it also says here another goal is to publicize the artist's role, like with Genga key animation drawing exhibitions and behind the scenes posts on social media. So that hopefully means that as these Dragon Ball and One Piece projects come out, that the people behind the scenes that work on them are going to get shine. And that's good to know, because I feel like the YouTubers and the a lot of us content creators in the Dragon Ball space, we're the ones that talk about the Shidas and people like that, right? That we talk about them. You never hear Toei really talking about them as much as they should, right? And they should, because they do work hard, and a lot of those guys are underpaid. I mean, this has been a story historically about animation, having that issue with Japanese animators being underpaid. I'm not saying that the Toei guys are all of them, but you'd be surprised at some of the numbers I've heard throughout the years about what they make. And so giving them some shine, and maybe even with the 70 billion going into paying them more, that's good. That is a good thing. And then here's the big one: global expansion, tripling the creation of new IPs with a target of 25 IPs created overseas, North America, China, Europe. The goal is to strengthen global development capability and make animation created overseas a second pillar of the business within 10 years by investing about 20 billion over 5 years in overseas development. That just means that they're going to have several bases around the world to create anime simultaneously and to create different projects. It talks about North America, Central, South America, Europe, Asia, China, Middle East, Africa, and India. A base in Dubai is planned to seize growth opportunities. Dubai was growing pretty big in the last few years. Don't know if it still is. And the company intends to lead pre-production of works in North America and Europe, incorporating regional cultures and local artists, hiring people outside of Japan. 19 billion yen over 5 years. This is a huge deal. Okay. This is, again, it's going to affect not just Dragon Ball. This is not just a Dragon Ball news update, but Dragon Ball and One Piece are the two big shonen kings for Toei. They're the two big shonen properties that bring in the most money for them. And so it's going to positively affect them. So everything seems to be lining up, man, with Akio's involvement. Hopefully Shueisha will untighten that grip and we'll get more Dragon Ball Super manga content. This right here is not about the manga or anything but the anime and the movie. So make it with what you will. I think it's good that they're going to expand. I'm not a fan of this company, but if they're actually finally coming to the 20th century, that, or 21st century. What am I saying? It's 2025, almost 2026. I'm glad they're here in the 20. I was about to go back in time here in the 21st century. So I may do a stream about this. I haven't decided yet. I will be seeing you guys again later this week. Stay tuned and take care.